This is They're Good at That Shit, a podcast where I talk to independent musicians about the areas where they've seen some success and what they did to get there. I'm Broadway, your host, and the goal of this podcast is really for you to walk away with actionable steps that you can take to succeed in your own journey. And for this episode, I wanted to do a best of and highlight some of the most insightful tips from my interviews thus far. Now, one thing many of our guests have in common is that they've been able to gain valuable experience and make key connections by getting on a team working with a big name in the entertainment industry. But how do you make that happen? Here's Roberto Horns talking about how he got started working on the TDE team with legendary manager Punch, who helped discover Kendrick Lamar and manages SZA. It was your video stuff that kind of led to you working with Punch, right?
Absolutely. So I was getting, we had a pandemic and I wasn't really working. I was kind of at the crib all day. And I started just getting video gigs through Twitter. Like I said, a lot of my videos have special effects and stuff in it, or visual effects. And so it makes the reel just look really unique. You take like the best couple clips or best couple effects from all my videos and kind of combine it into a reel. People see it and like, wow, this guy's incredible. One day I was following Punch because SZA's like my favorite artist. And he had mentioned something about shooting a movie. And so I just sent my reel to his Twitter in the replies and said, hey, let me edit the video or let me edit the movie. And he DM'd me like, this is dope. And I was like, cool. You got any more stuff? And I sent him my music videos, like 3 of them. And he was like, yo, come to my office. And I was like, cool. And he was like, your music really dope too. I was like, got your ass. Nah, but I was excited. I went up there and I started, that was 3 years ago. And I've been working with him ever since. I do music with him. I write, produce, sing, rap. And then I also do a lot of their video content. I've done some cool video content with SZA before. Just kind of everything.
Now, my guy Horns was super intentional about shooting his shot. And a lot of times you got to make it happen for yourself. But other times it happens in the strangest of ways. One thing leads to another. But it's still about fostering those connections. Now, Kofi Agyei has produced hits with Todrick, whose videos on YouTube have millions of views. But it all started over a decade ago with a friend of his from church who also happened to be a former contestant on American Idol. Take a look.
I've worked with Nicole Scherzinger a couple of times, Brandy a couple of times, Todrick Hall, Sierra.
Dope. How did those things come about?
Like, these specific artists was mainly through Todrick. We've been working with Todrick for over a decade now. I'd say most of his catalog is between me, another producer named Jeeb, and another producer, Carl.
How did the relationship with Todrick start, or how did that come about?
So we actually we met him through another artist named Vonzell Solomon.
Okay.
She was really big on the American Idol. She was one of the first few seasons, and we actually met her at church.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Actually, a frat brother of ours introduced me to her. Vonzell, she's an incredible singer, like still one of the best singers I've ever worked with.
Okay.
And one day we were just, I think we were working, we had a session with her, and then I just asked her if she had seen this flash mob, and it was Todrick's flash mob with him at Target, and she was like, have I seen it? I'm in it. And I was like, huh? And so I looked at the video closer and she's literally right there, almost right beside him. I was like, damn, I don't know how I missed. And so yeah, she told us yeah, I know him, that's my homie, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then not years later, but months later, I think he was in a pinch and he just needed to record something real quick. And I think he had heard her EP, so he heard the songs that we did and he always asked her who did it and all that stuff. And he just called us up one day randomly out of the blue. I was on a run. He was like, I need something recorded in an hour. Can you do it? And I was like, yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I bet Kofi is glad he picked up that call while he was on his run. Now, one more clip I want to highlight is from my conversation with Tom Rasulo and how he eventually got started working with Dave Matthews, My Chemical Romance, and more. What have you done for Dave Matthews, first of all? And then how did that come about?
Well, so I got hired at Warner Brothers to to engineer and assistant engineer and session drum and blah, 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 run around for this guy named Rob Cavallo. He's like a world-renowned producer, and his engineer's name was Doug McKean. So I met Dave by working for Rob.
Okay.
Because Rob was producing his album. And so my job there was to fly around with Rob and Doug and be their assistant engineer or their engineer when Doug got tired, basically.
Okay.
And we flew up to Seattle for like a year and a half and worked on a Dave Matthews album. Dave put me up in like this really nice apartment the whole time. Like, that whole crew is rad, man. Like, they're just so welcoming. Like, everyone in the band wants you to feel like you're as famous as they are. You know, it was like a great experience.
You've worked with some other people that people might know as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I worked with My Chemical Romance.
Right.
And then Gerard, the singer of My Chem, I engineered his solo record, which was cool. That was like my first engineer credit on a major label was with Gerard.
Nice.
So they took us out to like the middle of nowhere in like El Paso, Texas,
Oh, wow.
and to this place called Sonic Ranch, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
And that, like, we were out there for a month, like working with G. It was really cool. So I did that one. I worked with Gary Clark Jr. That was the first album that I actually got to work on when I got hired at Warner. We did that Black and Blue record. So that one was really cool. I got to work with Echo Smith on that Cool Kids song, which like just had a resurgence because of TikTok. BB Rexa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Who am I forgetting? Like Goo Goo Dolls.
Wow.
Andrew Lloyd Webber. Like, it feels weird saying all this because I kind of hate the name drop thing. But
Yeah,
it's
no,
like,
I feel you, but
Yeah.
this is kind of why we're here. You can't always control when you're going to get that big chance, but you can control how ready for it you are when it happens. I heard a quote from this millionaire entrepreneur named Myron Golden. Now, he said, money follows mastery. And I think that is so true. The most successful artists are the ones who truly master their craft. They never stop learning. They're constantly on a mission to get better at what they do. I love Maddi Fraser's approach to this and how she breaks it down. Now, Maddie tours and sings with Tom Sandoval from Vanderpump Rules. Check out our convo on this topic. How often do you like take lessons?
Once a week. Every week.
Every week.
Every single week.
I think that's very important.
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of people tend to, like, I think we can get like complacent with being like pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, because I started taking voice lessons with you.
Yeah.
Because you're amazing. And I was like, anytime lately I'm really on this thing of like, if I see somebody better than me at something, I'm like, teach me your ways.
Teach me, yes.
You know?
Such a healthy way of looking at things.
Yeah. But I think, and there have been people that have said, but why though? You're a good singer already.
Yeah.
But it's like, you can always get better. Mm-hmm. And I think that's dope that you take lessons once a week and you have one of the best voices like I've ever heard. So it's like, if you feel the need to take voice lessons once a week, then I think like that's a lesson for everybody that we can always be improving. We can always get better, no matter, you know, how good we think we are, how good we are even. Yeah. You know, I think we can always elevate.
You can. And it's a muscle. So like, you want abs, baby. How often are you going to work out? You know what I mean? Like, you want pecs? You want rippling biceps? Like, what are you gonna do? Yeah, you're gonna show up or you're gonna work, you know? Mm-hmm. So like, even if I do like practices with my coach once a week, but I sing every day.
Next, we're gonna go back to Kofi and hear what he had to say on the matter.
Number one, just work on your craft like a lot. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because every level you get to, there's another level. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, never just rest on the laurels. Mm-hmm. And then also trust the work you put in. You know, that's another thing. I actually take that from sports. You know, it's like, you got to trust it. When the moment's here, you got to just go. So like I said, when you get that inspiration, go. Don't question anything. Don't think it. But that's not the time to try out new plugins. It's not the time, you know, like, just go with what you know. You should experiment, but do it at a different time. Not when you're like really high in the creativity space.
Now, a huge part of mastering your craft is tightening up on your weaknesses, but sometimes you don't know what they are until you're actually in the pressure cooker, in the fire, in the spotlight. I always say when I have a bad performance that it's really just an opportunity for me to learn more about my weaknesses and improve on them. So here's Tom Rasulo again talking about one of those situations where he didn't perform as well as he would have liked, but what he did after that, that's what's key.
When I was at Warner, my first time I got a call as a session musician, the session musician that Rob and Doug had been using moved to Nashville. And they were like, okay, here's your time. If you want to sit in on a session, like, let's do it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be a session drummer. Let's go. And like, I hyped myself up, and the beat was so simple. It was like 4 on the floor, and I just had to play a backbeat on top of it. And because I'd never like really sat down and been like, okay, let me think about how my 4 on the floor sounds. Like my kick drum and my snare were flamming just a little tiny bit. And like Rob was like, hey, your kick and snare is flamming. Can you fix that? I'm like, oh, for sure. Try another take. Couldn't fix it. Trying one more. And then Rob's like, okay, we're going to get someone else. And I like, dude, I was devastated. I was so devastated. And so like, I just got in the lab, and I was, for like a year, all I did was just practice it. And then luckily Rob and Doug gave me another chance, like a year and a half later. And one of those things came up, and I nailed it. And it's not like Rob was like, good job, I could tell you've been practicing, right? But he's like, cool, great. And they just kept hiring me on more stuff. And then Doug did tell me, he was like, I can tell you've been practicing. Good job. I was like, thanks, man.
I love that story because even though Tom didn't nail it when he got his first shot, he got back in the lab, continued to practice, and eventually ended up redeeming himself. Now, I also dove into this with singer Brenda Carsey. Check out our conversation.
If you play an instrument, put a lot of energy into getting really good at that instrument and play with other people and play cover gigs if you want, or like, yeah, diversify.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I think you definitely hit on like just focus on being really good at your instrument. I think is huge. Like I heard a quote recently, and it kind of like it's changed like the way I like rehearse and the way I approach rehearsing. And it was like amateurs practice till they get it right. Pros practice till they can't get it wrong. And that, like for me, that was just like.
I think, first of all, it's true, and it's a great quote. I think, like, I'm really blessed to play with a lot of very fantastic instrumentalists.
Sure.
And yeah. I think that they're in the next, whatever the next phase past that quote, the next phase past that is they're so fluent in their instrument and speaking the language of their instrument that it actually becomes completely loose again.
Sure.
So it's like, it's not that, they can't do it wrong, like in the sense that like they're fixed every time, like performing a song, for example. It's that they can speak the language of their instrument so well that it doesn't matter anymore. They're just like sailing. They're fluidly floating on the wind of sound. Yeah. And like every single choice that they make, not every choice, but you know, most of the choices they make are going to land.
Now, when you do master your craft, it can lead to some awesome opportunities. I spoke to singer Lisa Crawley, who is also a master on the keys. Here's one of the cool things that opened up for her.
Well, they didn't want me for my songs. They didn't want me for my face. They didn't want me for my hands.
Your hands. Your hands were in This Is Us. That's still cool.
They needed someone to copy Mandy Moore. It's like to be her playing a song in the show. Yeah. But not only that, they needed to be an elderly version of her.
Okay.
So they dressed me up because she plays herself as an older woman in the show. So we wore matching outfits, and they're like, "Do you know Royals by Lorde?" I'm like, "Yep." I went to school with the guy that wrote that song, and and co-wrote it, and then So, and it's a New Zealand song, so it's like, yes, I knew that. Right. So yeah, that was kind of different to having my songs on shows.
Now, speaking of TV shows like This Is Us, one huge avenue for earning money with your music is sync. That's getting your music on TV shows, commercials, movies. I talked to Chelsey Coy, who runs a sync agency. She gives a great breakdown of what sync is and how to get started.
He did 24 spots with Adidas for their new sports bra campaign. And we have been getting a lot of placements on like CW shows, 4100, Batwoman, All American.
And to give people an idea, like what's kind of the range of like money like people can make,
Right.
like getting sync placements.
Right. So it runs the gamut. So we've been getting lately a lot of reality TV, which is, as I've always called it, the low-hanging fruit of sync, because it's anywhere from like $300 for a placement to like, $2,000. So that's on the lower end. And usually you're splitting that with your co-writers or, if you're not writing a song on your own. And then other things can range. I mean, we have something coming out where we got $5,000 for one song for usage. So it's like, it can vary. We get a lot of ad requests, and some of them are $200,000 and some of them are $5,000 or $10,000 or $12,000. So it's very like all over the place. And I think in the last years, a lot of people have said that the pricing has gone down. Like it used to be more. I've heard of someone getting $500,000 for one placement. I'm just like, that would buy me a house. I'd be done. I don't need this.
Right.
No, I'm just kidding.
But you're not.
But no, that would be really nice. But I love doing this work, so it's not really work. I wouldn't want to stop. I would just keep going. But the good news is you can keep going, because even as you age out of this entertainment field, just not looking a certain way after a certain age, you can still write music and you can be behind the scenes, and you don't have to be an artist in front of people in order to make money and to make a living at music. And that was like, when I realized that, moving back from New York in 2017, I found Sync. I found an online course, and I kind of dug into it really hard for the next 2 years. And that's where I met my co-owners, in that online course. And I just realized, oh shit, this is something that, there might be a future.
Looking to, get into sync. Where do I start? What do I do?
Right.
How can I get into it?
Yeah, so a lot of people come and they're like, great, this is great. I want to make money. Cool. So you want to have your ducks in a row, I like to say, before you kind of dive in, just because you do only get, you don't get one shot. You get more than that, but it's like, am I turning into Eminem right now? You only get one shot. No, you don't want to like start off on the wrong foot, is what I'm saying. Definitely have the right files. So always have an instrumental. You want to have AIF format, because the reason is because it's there's this thing called metadata, which is the information within the song file, and the only formats that hold metadata are AIFs and MP3s. But you don't ever want to send just an MP3. You always want to send a high res. Make sure after you leave a co-write or before you leave a co-write, get a one-stop split sheet signed. The one stop has verbiage at the bottom that is like, you and I and anyone on this song that has ownership is allowed to pitch this song non-exclusively to any opportunity. There's different avenues within Sync. It's TV, film, so that's like everyday songs pretty much. There's promos and trailers, which are like, you've seen a trailer. It's very bombastic. It's very like, pooh, 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 pooh. Yeah. But then there's music like, ah. There are trailer houses that do those, but then also we have done a bunch of trailer briefs as well. And then promos are like, if you see NBC or something, like they do a promo for like all their shows on a Thursday night. And then there's ads. And ads are just kind of another whole animal. A lot of the stuff is custom. A lot of stuff is instrumental only because there's voiceover.
Now, check out how Chelsey's knowledge and hard work landed her a placement that got her tens of thousands of dollars for one song.
Digging into Sync has been really fun and rewarding, and something that like I can get behind, because it's like doing music, but also potentially making money, and sometimes big money off of it. I got one placement a couple years ago. I wasn't even doing anything. My music was just up on a platform called Song Trader. And they reached out to me, and they were like, hey, someone wants to use your song Home. And I'm like, okay, great. That's cool. And then months went by, nothing happened. And then all of a sudden I had like $12,000 in my like Song Trader account. And then they were like, cool, so we'll give you this, but we also want you to do a Christmas version of the song. So will you re-record it? And they gave me more money. And I was like, this is amazing. And then they renewed it the next year and then gave me all that money again. So it's just like...
Also had the opportunity to talk to BodaciousThang. Now, she's an amazing artist who's landed sync placements in commercials for the Super Bowl, commercials with companies like Disney, Pizza Hut, and in shows like Love is Blind and Real Housewives. Check out what she has to say about how she got started.
The first project that I was presented, they wanted me to do a Lizzo / Big Frida type album for reality TV shows, things like that. So that's how it started. Like I was in a band before that had syncs, but as far as doing it solely with myself and not with the band, it was just a connection that worked out. And so stay connected. Secondly, just always be writing. Like just keep yourself sharp, keep performing. If you perform live, the more songs you have, the more it's just like real estate in music. You can give that to sync. You could sell it to another artist. You could use it for yourself. So there's a lot of things you can do. So as long as you're writing and making new material, collaborating with people, that sets you up for people to find you if they do want to see you, if they do want to use you for a sync project.
Now, those are some great sync stories we just heard, but the sad truth of the music business is that sometimes even when you get a big placement, you might still have to really fight to get paid what you're owed. Now, in our conversation with Lisa Crawley, she tells us about a big placement she got, and you won't believe what she had to do to get paid.
So I had some songs on Australian TV shows and New Zealand shows, a couple of commercials. And then I found out that one of them was on a French shoe ad without my knowledge. So that's when I kind of was like, what's going on? What else is out here? So So a certain company was up to no good, and and so I was going to a conference in LA. I just got my publishing rights back, and I saved up when I was living in Australia, even though I'm from New Zealand, and went to the Sing conference in LA in 2015. And I'm like, I'm going to find out what happened to my song. So the company that they were working with that put it out, I got an Uber to Culver City. I had no idea where that was, and talked to them about it. And learned that one of the companies was up to some shady stuff. So always be across where your songs are going. Okay. But I worked hard and I got paid for it. So that was the biggest sync I've ever had, money-wise. So I'm glad that I fought the good fight.
Now, flying from Australia to LA to stand on business, that's no joke. Good stuff, Lisa. And with that, it is time to wrap up this best of episode. To all the guests, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your stories, your wisdom. To everybody listening out there, thank you so much for supporting. And I really do hope that this is helping you learn more about what you can do to take your music career to the next level. Now, all of the full episodes are on YouTube and anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if any of the clips really spoke to you, I definitely encourage you to check out the full episode with that guest. Thank you so much for watching and listening to They're Good at That Shit. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Broadway, the host. If you got something out of the episode, definitely go ahead and hit the like button. Also subscribe and turn on the notifications so you can get notified whenever we drop new episodes. If there was something specific that you learned or found interesting, put that in the comments. Also, if there was something that you thought you were going to learn more about, wanted to hear more about, and didn't, put that in the comments as well. We can use that to make these episodes better going forward. Thank you again for checking out They're Good at That Shit.